Hej och välkomna tillbaka till Erik Penser Bank och vår temadag Life Science. Vi ska gå vidare i agendan och nästa bolag som ska presentera är Oasmia och presentationen kommer hållas på engelska. Well, I switch language to English and I want to introduce François Martelet, CEO of Oasmia. Welcome François, the floor is yours, take it away. Please.
Tack så mycket. Jag ska fortsätta på engelska idag.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you, and it's always a pleasure to be here. This is a forward-looking statement that, of course, we will not ask you to read. So we've been reflecting a lot on our vision. So what do we want to achieve as a company long term? And clearly, you know, we want to create, we want to set up, we want to build a Swedish-based oncology powerhouse focused on how to treat cancers. And how do we realize that vision? Because we all know that a vision without a plan is no less than a pure dream. So clearly, you know, we want to build a diversified pipeline focused on hard to treat and late-stage cancer using different mechanisms of actions. And during this whole presentation, I will try to demonstrate why do we need to have a diversified pipeline, how to treat late-stage cancer, kind of a niche indication in oncology, different mechanism of actions in order to de-risk the strategy of the company. Right, so what has been achieved over the last 18 months at Oasmia? I mean, clearly, you know, the right sizing of the company was an absolute necessity, and that's been done. We have also terminated any commercial drug production because this is not our business model. We are not a CDMO company. And we've been, even also more importantly, you know, putting our finances in order. We have reduced the burn rate. We have now a burn rate that I will come back to that is really acceptable. And even more importantly than that, we've been able to build in-house capabilities by hiring, you know, senior-level executives that have a track record in oncology coming from both big pharma and biotech. And finally, you know, I have inherited a number of legal issues, legal disputes that have finally been sorted out recently. So the company doesn't have any liability anymore, and I'm quite proud to mention that now. Right, so looking at the next phase of execution, you know, what do we want to achieve and how? Well, I think I mentioned, you know, the Swedish-based oncology powerhouse. Now the how. The how is the string of pearls strategy. That means adding compounds, you know, one by one, either companies and or assets to our emerging pipeline in oncology. And the way we want to do that, we want to have a multi-shots on goal. That means one, we acquire one molecule, for instance. We want to test it in several indications. And this is the concept of a pipeline within a molecule in oncology. At the same time, you know, we clearly need to expand our shareholder base. We need to have to bring institutions in, not only from Sweden, but also from Europe and potentially from the US as well. So this is the next steps over the couple of next years. Right, areas of focus. So we have fundamentally two business lines. We have, on one side, we have an oncology research and development in license and wholly owned development stage assets, such as Cantrixil, docetaxel micellar, and of course, what we are looking at to in licensing. And at the same time, we have a commercial business line. And this commercial business line is coming from the commercialization of Apealea through our partner in the US, Elevar Therapeutics. At the same time, we're also working on partnering our technology platform and our animal health assets. And I have to say that this commercial line will come to reality next year. And why? Because Inceptua, which is the partner of Elevar in Europe, will launch Apealea in the UK and in Germany as the first market. Right, recent achievement and milestones. That means what have we achieved during the last quarter, especially On the capability side, we have hired head of clinical development and head of regulatory. We are not a virtual company, as opposed to many companies in the sector, and we want to provide this kind of a nest of level of capabilities to the sector. We, with regard to Apealea, which is paclitaxel micellar, we have been able to, let's say, to close the phase of external commercialization by the deal with Farmamondo for Russia and CIS, and we expect to, there will be a tech transfer from the current distributor to the next one, to Farmamondo, so we expect this to happen next year. So Inceptua is planning to launch Apealea in Europe in 2022. Yes, we have been delayed, but yes, it will happen as well. Better late than never. And as I said just a minute ago, it will be Germany and the UK, followed by Spain and Italy. And obviously, this is great news. How many companies in our sector are able to launch a true oncology product in Europe? Not so many, if you look around, you know, in Sweden, for instance. With regard to the indication in the US, which means Apealea, paclitaxel micellar, in the US, Elevar is looking at finalizing their strategy with the FDA, and prior to that, they do not want to communicate the plan. Also for strategic competitive reasons, because obviously we are not alone in this market, and we don't want to have other companies mimicking or you know, trying to replicate what we are doing. So, and I will come back to this next year. Driving our pipeline of therapy for hard-to-treat cancer, clearly Cantrixil, you know, I will come back to that as well. Phase 2 preparation. Docetaxel micellar, we will expect an enrollment of the phase 1 study end of next year. And we have a deal with Karolinska Institute. We are on the research side. We are working on how to optimize the platform, especially with regard to cytotoxicity, and I will come back to that as well. Business development and licensing in. Well, clearly, we've been, since I joined the company, performing around 8 full due diligence or companies, private, public, and or assets. And yes, you may ask me why you haven't done it yet. Well, clearly, you need to have the right fit from a scientific, clinical, and financial perspective. We are not a Novartis, you know, though I used to work over there, but this is not the case anymore. So therefore, it has to be, the puzzle has to fit, you know, with our level of capabilities and including the finance side as well. Reducing business risk, yes, it was important to reduce the risk by closing our disputes. And as I said earlier, you know, I'm very pleased to report that the plate is totally clean upon which we can build. Right. In terms of level of capabilities, you know, we have an emerging pipeline today. We've been adding regulatory, clinical, product development, business development expertise by either direct people hiring or partners. So now the fit is to trying to find, you know, the portfolio addressing with multiple mechanisms of action to close this puzzle. And this is what we are doing. The team consists of all senior executives coming from the industry, both big pharma experience, small companies as well. We have also a presence in the US with Dr. Koenig, based on the East Coast. And that's important as well to have eyes and ears on the US market for acquisitions, for instance. And I have to say that we've been also able to hire top-level scientists in our lab in Uppsala, and this is not mentioned here, but that's an important, you know, these scientists are our engine in our lab in Uppsala. String of pearl approach to build critical mass. Without any critical mass, you don't have any sustainable company, okay? So our sweet spot is, from a development perspective, from preclinical and actually mainly after preclinical up to phase 2, phase 3. We don't exclude to go into phase 3 in a limited range of indications, small indication, hard to treat cancer, rare cancer as well. And to that extent, we don't exclude to market and to launch our drugs on our own. But however, you know, we think that we are going to create value by having successful phase 2b drugs, upon which you can either licensing out or continue on our own the development of it. Cantrixil, very exciting small molecule licensed in March of this year from Acacia. We've been able to build a clinical advisory board. We will have interaction with the FDA next year, also with the European authorities, to validate our clinical trial plan. I don't want to embark on that without having the validation by the authority. And then at the same time, we are securing drug supply. So there will be some delay. So the Cantrixil phase 2 cannot start in 2022. Why? Because you know, to produce Cantrixil, you need 3 or 4 manufacturers. Believe it or not, this is a complex process. The purification is very complex for Cantrixil. It's a very potent drug. And we are looking at, of course, reducing the risk linked to having 2 or 3 manufacturers. So we want to have a more linear supply chain. And we are in a process to choose a big supplier with a lot of reliability as well. But that takes some time. However, beside the fact that the study will not start in 2022, we do have orphan drug designation status by the FDA. What does that mean? It means that potentially, if the phase 2b is successful, we can go for an accelerated approval. And that will be also a striking event for Cantrixil and for Oasmia. On top of this, we have a very strong patent protection. So, and again, you know, Cantrixil, it's a kind of a pipeline within a molecule. We know that this target CD44 is present on ovarian cancer, but also could be used, we could actually test the drug in other indications such as bladder and cervical cancer. Right, docetaxel micellar, this is docetaxel, you know, it's Taxotere, generic now. We have an improved formulation, docetaxel micellar, that is coming out of our platform. And the phase 1b is underway, perfectly on time, on track. End of enrollment is expected by the end of 2022. We have 3 centers, 18 patients should be enrolled, and so far, so good. And of course, this is a big market as well, and we're planning to go to the next step as well. Right, research with Karolinska Institute, essential for our platform. We're working on the cytotoxicity of the molecule, the API, actually Apilia to start with, but the research will be also used for other compounds such as Cantrixil. We want to better understand, and we want to potentially upgrade the platform once we have the result of these cellular mechanisms of actions. This is the first step of several steps in terms of project, and I hope to be able to report quite soon the outcome of the phase 1. Right, Apilia. So again, you know, we are quite proud to, as a small company in Sweden, to launch a drug through Inceptua in Europe, starting with Germany and the UK. From Amondo, also, tech transfer should be completed during next year, and we are planning to launch as well late 22. The worldwide peak sales below $300 million are not company guidance and do not reflect what we want to communicate. This is an indication of the potential, on the worldwide potential of the drug. And it's coming from actually a number of analysts that are covering us. But I thought it was important to mention that. And again, in the US, this is in the sector of Elevar, and they are working on trying to accelerate as well the approval process for Apelia in the US. And again, I will come back to you once I know. No need to tell you that the oncology market is growing at a double-digit growth rate, and targeting in 2030 about more than $300 billion. And we want to be part of it. We want to have our small pie of this market. Adding new oncology program. Yes, it's important. If you want to build an oncology powerhouse, you need to have, at least a couple of other molecules, in your pipe, not only small molecule, but antibody, viruses, CAR-T therapy. And this is what we are looking at when we perform due diligence of companies and assets. Create value. How do we create value? As I said, the goal is to get to the phase 2, phase 2B, and then either we partner or we continue the development on our own. You reduce the risk if you partner immediately at phase 2B, having good results. But at the same time, we can also think about doing it on our own. So this is the way we see it at Oasmia. And again, we all have the level of capabilities of a pharmaceutical company, even on a small size, but still. This is our emerging pipeline, so Cantrixil intraperitoneal. And the beauty is that this molecule is not very much water soluble. So through our platform technology, we can improve the solubility of Cantrixil. And we have tested that with our platform. It works. So we're planning to develop, and we are at the preclinical stage now, Cantrixil IV, which is, of course, a much better formulation than the IP and can be used widely in a number of different indications other than ovarian as well. So, but this is the first step that we will be working on next year. Financially, well, we've been able to record sales. That was Apelia shipment to Elevar during the last quarter for clinical study purposes. We've been able to reduce the burn rate. We are now below the 10 million SEK per month, which is quite an achievement for a company that has all the functions of a small pharmaceutical company. We have been able to save around 100 million SEK per year. That was a consequence of the right sizing and the reduction of the commercial production. And at the end of the quarter, we have around 150 million SEK in order to maintain and continue our operations over the next year. Right, Oasmia and sustainability. We do pay a lot of attention to ESG, environmental, social governance. We believe that this is an important aspect, and we have already not only done the plan, but started the implementation of it. I pay a lot of attention at good governance and business ethics. Those two aspects are fundamental in our business. And the fact that we've been able to erase any dispute and liabilities at Oasmia prove that we are now moving, from a totally clean plate from that standpoint. Right, so building an oncology business. What are the catalysts, the drivers next year? Obviously, we will continue to work hard on in-licensing and M&A. Cantrixil, preparation of phase 2. Docetaxel micellar, finalization of the phase 1B. The technology platform, enhancement through the program with Karolinska. Apelia, sales. Yes, finally, sales. Sales in Europe are coming, so therefore we expect to get royalties and milestones next year. Animal health business, we continue to look for a partner to divest it. So all in all, we believe that at Oasmia, with the new Oasmia, there is a great opportunity to build a Swedish oncology powerhouse focused on how to treat late-stage cancer. We do have the capabilities in place and an experience to build a diversified oncology pipeline that will reduce the risk given the attrition rate in the industry. String of pearls strategy is the way to build critical mass, multiple shots on goals, strong platform. So all in all, we believe that we are well positioned in order to attract institutions, not only in Sweden, but also in Europe and potentially in the US. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation, François. And I have some questions for you from myself and from the web. Let's start with my questions then. And I would like to go back to the starting of your presentation, where you highlight, the goal of diversification, different mechanisms, and so on. I mean, you have 2 clinical programs and you have 1 product.
On the market.
Yeah, exactly. When is your portfolio diversified? I mean, is it 5, 10? How many products do you think you need to delivering on such a goal that you have?
I mean, of course, we have to be realistic given the constraints from a financial perspective as well as the limitations of what is available on the marketplace. We are not the only one to do the same, although in Sweden we are the only company having this vision, and I'm quite proud of that. But of course, we are competing with big players as well. So it will be a step-by-step approach, and therefore, but what we are looking at is also at really state-of-the-art compound and or technology. But, we probably need 3 to 5. If you have 3 to 5 compounds in your portfolio, you can reasonably expect that 1 or 2 will make it.
And over time, I mean, if you look 5 to 10 years in the future, will you be doing M&As or with assets or companies, or is it just until you have built a pipeline?
Right. Again, I mean, it's always difficult to bring expectation to that level. Yeah. But clearly, we have this ambition. We want to realize it. We believe that a succession of licensing in and M&A is the key to succeed. And then, of course, we have to have the financial muscles to do it. So step by step.
But do you want to be an expert in this part of the business place?
Yes, absolutely.
And I mean, and looking 3 to 5 years ahead, I mean, do you want to become a profitable company on an ongoing basis, or do you want to? I mean, I'm selling compounds, and you get a lot of money, and then it's 2, 3 years until the next big deal are done.
Yeah, that's a good question. To become a cash profitable company for a biotech company, it's quite seldom the case. There are not that many cases around. And I know that because I have about 20, 25 years of experience in that market. So it's more, getting to a successful phase 2 and then partner, realize the value of one compound and move to the next step, repeat that all over again. Potentially 5 years, 7, 10 years, we could, if we are able to market on our own in a small indication, think about profitability, potentially.
Okay, great. I mean, you have docetaxel micellar that is we don't talk that much about, but it's there, and I mean, it's an interesting asset. What if you just could remind us what is the strategy from your side? When you have the, say, phase 1b data, would you be interested to take that forward to this to the phase 2b stage, or is this a different asset, so to speak, than the other ones?
Yeah, I mean, it is certainly, it's not it's a new chemical entity, but it is not, a super state-of-the-art asset, let's be frank. So that compound could be used in combination with other things. And provided that we can secure IP rights with our technology platform, yes, we potentially will think about developing it into the phase 2.
Okay. Perfect. And you have this collaboration with the Karolinska. It's been a while now, but I mean, and you mentioned that you are working with Apelia, for example. What is your hope that this will bring to you for Apelia? Is it a better safety, better efficacy? What would you think could come out of this collaboration?
This collaboration is set in order to better understand the way the platform works. Why? Because we want also to use other API, such as Cantrixil, into that platform. And so far, we don't really understand, once we administer the micelle, how does it dissolve very quickly or not? What are the cytotoxicity of the platform? So it's important to understand that, because this will have impact on drug load capacity. This will have impact on solubility. So, we are very pleased to have signed off this agreement. I know it takes some time, but, research academia, it takes some time. And then we have signed off this earlier this year. So early next year, I should be able to report some of the results.
Okay, interesting. And you mentioned also an IV solution for Cantrixil. And I just a little bit curious, if you would take that forward, would still Cassia own the molecule, so to speak? They will be alive for royalty and so on, or is this for the original formulation?
That's a good question. Well, we need to sort this out, to be frank, but I anticipate that this will be still part of the global licensing in agreement, regardless of the mode of administration. But, having access to IV, not now, it will take some time, even next year, but having access to IV will be a huge advantage, as you know very well, in oncology. Then we can combine drugs. Then we can also, it's a much easier administration route, and we can also use Cantrixil in earlier stages, not only very late stage for patients that are very, very sick.
And you also mentioned that there are potential in other indications.
Yes, absolutely.
Are you something you have initiated preclinical work with?
Yeah, not yet. But we know that on the surface of cells in cervical cancer and bladder, you have CD44 expressed a lot. So pipeline within a molecule. So you see, it appears to be Cantrixil somewhat of a small asset, but it's not a small asset that we have licensing in. It has really a kind of a blockbuster potential down the road in so many indications, but of course it will take some time.
And then I want to jump to Apelia sort of again then. Inceptua, if you just could remind us, I mean, it's about to be launched in Europe, UK, Germany. How does their sales team look like?
Well, they are building capabilities in those countries by hiring key account manager and medical scientific liaison officer, a couple of key account manager for Germany, the same for the UK, and also on the MSL side. So we are very pleased. I mean, they are really expert in oncology and hospital product mainly, and we are very pleased that they will be launching. They have the expertise in Europe. So we are, we are in the final stage of transferring the marketing authorization order. It has been done to them, by the way. I want to clarify that because it was one of the questions that we were having. The MAH has been transferred from Oasmia to Inceptua, and then it's now from Inceptua to the countries themselves, namely UK, Germany to start with, followed by Italy and Spain. So, and then further down the road, Switzerland will be covered, Austria. So it will be a European launch, a wide European launch.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, you have also mentioned, and I guess Elvor as well, has mentioned that there might be possibilities to license out Apelia in other markets than you already have a partner. Is there any particular where you see this potential happening in 2022?
You mean partnering out?
Yeah, sort of South America or Africa, I don't know.
I mean, clearly, you can imagine that Eleva, being a US-based biotech company, they are focusing on the US market. And they are really looking at how to speed up the regulatory process. So they will meet with the FDA next year, and then the whole plan will be disclosed. Latin America will follow, I guess, the US strategy. It's very similar, you know. And also there are pricing issue. Better launch in the US first and then in Latin America. And there are other markets that also should be targeted, such as in Asia, and in particular China. And I hope that Eleva, our discussions will materialize that in 2022.
Okay, great. That is my question. I then look at what's from the audience. And we have one question. How important is this Pharmamondo Group deal that you struck earlier this year?
Yeah, of course. I mean, Russia is not like a big European market, but still, it is a market that needs to be covered. And we have therefore found a new partner. The previous distributor didn't really produce any good results. So there is a tech transfer process that will happen next year. So we hope to be able to launch fully through Pharmamondo Apealea in Russia, mainly end of 22/23.
Perfect. And also I have a question about what was delivered in the Q3 report. You have 11 million in sales, and if that was related to research or that you are selling drugs for as a medicine, I guess, for Inceptua or Elvar.
Well, it was actually the sales of Apealea to Eleva. For clinical trial purposes. So we were very pleased with that. So to reduce our inventories very significantly, yes.
And then the last question is about the veterinary business and or animal health. If you, I mean, it has been around for a while. You want to, what should we expect come out for that asset?
We continue to look for a partner. It's not relatively easy because it's an emerging market. In oncology, veterinary business is emerging in the US, and therefore that takes some time and some energy. But we continue to look for a partner.
Perfect. Thank you so much, François.
You're welcome. Thank you, Klaas.